A few years ago, a lot of the private equity money was flowing into malls. I'm saying when I say few years, I mean 10 years ago. Like malls were a big thing. And now if you see a lot of our cities, the malls are kind of abandoned. But now a lot of that private equity money that was flowing into malls is now flowing into warehousing, because warehousing across the country is growing at a tremendous rate. So we started looking at warehousing, and it immediately became obvious that warehousing is growing pretty fast. Like if I look at the last 4 years, it has been growing at around 20% per year. And if I look at the next 4 years, the projections are that it is going to continue to grow about 20% per year as well. So right now in 2021, the amount of warehousing space that there is in India is around 3 million square feet, while it was barely above 1 million square feet in 2017. Right? And they're expecting it to go to 7 million square feet by 2026. The big question is, why is this happening? What do you think the biggest reason is? What, like Siddharth, if you were to give your gut reaction, what would it be?
E-commerce.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's obvious. E-commerce is one of the biggest drivers of the warehousing growth, right? So if I look at the warehousing demand, and if I look at why warehousing is being built, 30 to 35% of that warehousing is just used for e-commerce, and the remaining 30% of it is being used for something called third-party logistics, which is basically where a D2C brand will say like, hey, can you this third-party logistics, can you do the warehousing for me, and can you ship the product for me when I get an order? So even that is basically for e-commerce as well. I mean, there are other use cases of 3PL, but this is one of the biggest use cases as well. So you can say about
one of the use cases for 3PL would be just the offline distribution that a lot of companies have, right? Basically going from their manufacturing plant all the way to the end retail where you're going to buy these goods. I think that's a good use case for 3PL.
Exactly. So you can I think conservatively say that e-commerce is driving probably about 30, 40, 50% of the warehouse space that is being used in India. And e-commerce, I think it's obvious, but e-commerce has been growing like nuts the last couple of years, especially since the COVID crisis. I tried to find an exact number of what percentage of e-commerce, what percentage of total retail is e-commerce. I got different numbers based on different sources. Some people say it's 5% right now. Some people say it's 15% right now. It's difficult to get an exact source, but the point is there's still a lot of headroom for e-commerce to grow. And if there's a lot of headroom for e-commerce to grow, that means that warehousing is going to grow along with it. And in my opinion, that is the biggest influencer for why warehousing is growing so fast and why so many people are investing in warehousing. Another big reason is also the government kind of changed a few regulations. They put warehousing under something that is called infrastructure status. Now, what infrastructure status gives warehousing, and actually it didn't just put warehousing under infrastructure status, it put logistics under infrastructure status, and warehousing is a part of that. And what that means is that they could get better interest rates from banks. You get better interest rates from banks. That means the returns that you need to get from your project are lower. That means the risk for your project are lower. That means more projects for warehousing, for logistics are going to be greenlit. And therefore, you have warehousing boom that is happening right now. In fact, when we were doing this research, we asked one of our groups of friends about like, hey, who over here knows anything about warehousing? At least 3 of them on a group of like 6 people were like, hey, my family, we had some land and now we're converted into a warehouse. Hey, my family has some land, we converted into a warehouse. So a lot of people are getting into this. A lot of capital is moving into this.